Hi, everyone. Okay, just to give you some background on me, I got a short video to show you. This is the 200 metres at the London 2012 Games, where I won this. Take it, pass it round, enjoy it. This is the one from Beijing, guys. This is the one from Beijing. Okay. Now, this here, this is me, and this here, this is Graham. And Graham's just beating me in the 100 metres. Okay. So I'm back to get him now. Okay. And we just had. There's been a false start already, which I've had to edit out because we don't have time to do the whole race. So everybody's a bit twitchy on the blocks. Nobody's quite sure what's going to happen next. There's 80,000 people in that stadium. It was just incredible. Absolutely amazing. This is the bit my mum always gets really nervous about, and she generally goes and hides at this point. And my dad is the one who has to kind of comment on it, tell her it's going to be okay, etc. Anyway, here we are. We're coming around the bend. Now, coming off the stagger, you can see I'm ahead of Graham. This guy here is Roman Pavlik from Ukraine. This guy here is Wei Shou from Hong Kong. Wei Shou is a phenomenal athlete. He's the world record holder in this event. But he's a bit like me, really. The pressure of major competition gets to him. Thank you. Okay. So now you will know a bit about me. I want to talk to you about the legacy of London 2012 and of Paralympic Games generally. So I was trying to desperately think about how I was going to do this. And in the end, I decided that the best thing to do was to come up with a graph. There's nothing better than a graph, trust me. Now, as you can see, there's a very complicated graph. But basically what it shows is that you have the position that they came in the world on the medals table, and then the countries along the top here. Okay, these are the host games. Yeah. This is still too complicated, right? So we'll break it down for you. Great Britain. Let's have a look at those. We came second in 3 consecutive games, and then we dropped to third for London. So we're the exception. We're the people who don't do the rule. Most games. Let's look at China. China have made a phenomenal rise, absolutely huge rise. They've gone from way down here, I think it was like, something like 28th, something like that, to being first for 2004, 2008, and 2012. And I'm not sure you see this, but the one in red is the home games. And if we look at the next one, you can see the same thing happen in South Korea, exactly the same thing. So at the home games, you can see that they are achieving their highest medals table. Let's look at another one. Australia. Australia is huge. Look, they go up and up and up, and then they get to their main games, and then as soon as their main games are finished, they drop straight off again. Isn't that fascinating? You would have thought they would have been able to keep it going for at least one more game, wouldn't you, really? Have a look at the next one. This is Russia. Now, the reason I put Russia in is because they hosted the games way back here, and they didn't even enter a Paralympic team. They refused, point blank, to even host the games. They were held in the Netherlands instead. And now Russia, of course, have the 2014 games, the Winter Games. So they've suddenly developed this interest, and as you can see, they're powering through the medals table. It's fascinating, isn't it? The same thing happened in Brazil. So Brazil is this huge developing country with so much going for it and so much going on right now. And obviously they've got the 2014 games. And as you can see, the same thing happens. So they're going along quite happily here. Have a bit of a blip here. Don't really know why. And then as soon as this finishes, look, they start climbing up and up and up again. And they're still not quite in the top 5. But mark my words, in 4 years' time, they will be. right? And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we're not fighting them for kind of 4th place on the medals table. So, I have to ask a very interesting question, which is, what does this mean and how does this translate into society? And the reason this is such an important question is because it's one that social scientists grapple with every day. And it's the question of, does sport reflect society, or does society reflect sport? And, you know, to be honest with you, what I've come to understand is that it's a bit of both. But both things are true. Society reflects sport in many, many ways. But also sport inherently reflects the society that we live in. There's no greater example than this than in the Seoul Games in '88. Now, this is the stadium in Seoul. And at the beginning of the Games, they had 50,000 people who were registered by the government as being disabled. After the Games, this is incredible. After the Games, a year later, that number is to 500,000 people. Isn't that amazing? I think that's amazing. Yeah? So the power of sport is evident, and this is a good example of it. It's really interesting. People ask me all the time whether or not London managed to do the same thing. So I'll give you some statistics to try and help see if this is the case. So 11.2 million people watched the Games. On Friday night, which was the opening ceremony, it was 3.6 million people. Who here watched the Games? Hands up if you watched the Games. Yeah, pretty much everybody. Pretty much everybody. You are part of that enormous number. You should be proud. 500 hours of coverage was devoted to the game. This is the biggest coverage, the biggest number of hours devoted to a Paralympic Games ever, of all time. We should be proud of that as a society. We made that happen. By the end of the Paralympics, 39.3 million people had watched the Games for 3 minutes or more. Admittedly, they probably tuned in to watch Johnny Peacock's race and then tuned out again. But the same thing happened in the Olympics. Exactly the same thing happened in the Olympics. Right? Everybody tuned in to watch the 100 meters, and they all tuned out again. Yeah? It's true. This makes it the most successful Games of all times. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That is cool. That is cool. No doubt about that. That is cool. And 2.5 million tickets were sold for the Paralympic Games. 2.5 million people got to go and watch something live in the stadium. Anybody in this room who was part of that contingent? Yeah, hey, look at this. Check it out. We're not doing too badly, are we, huh? So, can we say that we had an effect? Can we say that we really managed to make a difference? Well, I think so, and here's why. You know, this picture is really quite emotional for me because when you're in this village, you're put into this bubble, and you have no idea whether you're having an effect outside of the bubble or not. Does that make sense? You're completely kind of cut off from the outside world. And for me, that's a really bad thing. I don't like being cut off from the outside world. It took me ages to kind of adjust to this new way of being. And then we had the closing ceremony. The closing ceremony, you get completely knackered for closing ceremony, right? And you come out of closing ceremony. I was almost asleep during this parade. But there was just such a crowd. There was over 1 million people rocked up to thank us. But really, it's not about thanking us, it's about thanking you, because the society were the people who made it happen. They were the people who were special. You know? It seems to me that sport isn't about the sport at all. It's about the impact it has on everybody else. And, you know, it's amazing to think that human beings are capable of running 100 meters in 9.56 seconds. Isn't that cool? But it's even more amazing to think that people will tune in and watch that in their billions. That's what's really cool. And in this case, this was no exception. It was fantastic. We had an event going on where a load of people rocked up to say thank you to us. They made signs, right? Who went down there? Oh, a couple, okay. Well, we made some signs. The spectators made a sign, and one of them was just sitting on top of the bus stop, and it just said very simply, "You put the great back. Thank you." And I just thought that was so nice. It really kind of touched me in a way that not many other things do. It's just strange. So, can we say that the Paralympics can continue to change the world? Sport, as I've just said, isn't about entertainment. It's much more than that. It's about how do we make a better world. And I would like to argue for a moment that sport is an enormous fakehead. It's a phenomenal fakehead. So, in the Paralympic terms, what we've done is we've tried to change the way people see disability. I think that before the Games, perhaps some people had this view that disabled people were people who were shut away and, you know, kept out of sight and so on. And certainly in Beijing that was the case. Certainly in China that is still the case today for many disabled people. It's a very sad situation out there. But in this country, what we've done is we've opened up a huge floodgate. We've opened up this amazing kind of world of opportunity. And I just thought I would share with you a couple of ideas about the idea of sport changing the world. This picture here, everybody knows, it's a picture of a guy standing on the podium showing Black Power. He's basically fighting the American kind of problem associated with black people not being able to vote and not being able to have the right to speak their mind in the States. This one here was one that was done by football. It was, again, to do with race. It was the idea of kick racism out of football. It was a very successful campaign. It's just a shame that it didn't work in the way that everybody wanted it to. It just didn't. You know, there's still racism going on in football across the world. You know, hopefully that will change. And this one here is great. This one here was set up as a result of Rio getting the Games in 2014. This is a charity that basically teaches young people to box. And the idea is that it takes them off the streets, it gets them out of the gangs and gets them out of all the problems, all the social deprivation associated with living in the kind of ghettos of Rio, where it has to be said that hundreds of people get killed on a weekly basis. It's absolutely sorry state of affairs out there. But again, you've got these kids, and they're just kids, and they're just coming off the street, and they have to put their guns and all the other things down at the side of the room and pick up the boxing gloves, and off they go. It's amazing to think that these are the kind of things that we can have as a result of sport and as a result of social change. So, I don't know when you noticed, but I began this talk by saying that it was the quiet revolution, by saying that people didn't really know about it, but it was going on in the background. I would like to argue that, particularly in this country, it's not so quiet anymore. And it's particularly not so quiet when you guys are here and listening to me and, you know, getting to hear about it. And I just hope that there's some way that we can get you guys involved in the sport if you're not already, and help to generate a feeling that we can change the world. Because it's not about people just doing their own thing. It's about everybody collectively coming together. I thought I'd leave the last word to somebody who is a bit more intelligent than me, Stephen Hawking, who said that we are all different. There is no such thing as the standard human being. And however difficult things become, there's always something you can do that you can be good at. And that's the point, I think, is that it's about you finding something you're good at and making it work. Thank you very much.